In every family that has gone through a divorce, there is usually one specific relationship that carries the deepest emotional weight. It is not always the relationship between the two people who were married. Sometimes the more complicated relationship is between the ex-wife and the new partner, the former spouse and the person who came after, the woman who was there before and the woman who came later. For the Roloff family, that relationship was between Amy Roloff and Caryn Chandler, and it was, for nearly 2 decades, one of the most awkward, tangled, and quietly painful dynamics in the entire Little People Big World universe. Amy had known Caryn for years before Caryn ever became Matt's girlfriend. Caryn had worked at Roloff Farms as the farm manager since at least 2007 by some accounts, and definitely by 2011 when she first appeared as a background figure on the show. Amy and Caryn had been co-workers, in a sense. They had shared professional space. They had been part of the same family business ecosystem. Then in 2015, Amy separated from Matt. In 2016, the divorce was finalized. In 2017, Matt publicly began dating Caryn. In 2019, Amy published her memoir, A Little Me, in which she alleged that Matt and Caryn's relationship had been inappropriately close during her marriage. In 2023, Matt and Caryn got engaged, and in 2025, they broke up. Through all of it, Amy and Caryn had to figure out how to be in the same physical space at family events, at pumpkin season, at holidays, at reality television filming days. Tonight on LPBW Update, we are walking through the complete evolution of the Amy Roloff and Caryn Chandler relationship. From Amy's earliest suspicions, to their forced coexistence on the show, to Amy's memoir revelations, to their eventual cautious cordiality, to what happened when the engagement finally ended in July 2025. Because this is one of the most human stories in the entire Roloff family narrative. 2 women, 1 family, 15 years of tension, and eventually a form of peace that neither of them ever quite expected to reach. Let us start at the beginning. Caryn Chandler was working at Roloff Farms for years before Amy ever knew there was anything unusual about her role in the family. Caryn was the farm manager. She helped Matt with the operations. She was efficient. She was organized. She was, by all professional accounts, good at her job. Amy, as Matt's wife and one of the owners of Roloff Farms, would have interacted with Caryn regularly during that period. There would have been staff meetings. There would have been pumpkin season coordination. There would have been the ordinary work of running a farm together. Amy has said in her memoir and in interviews that she liked Caryn as a coworker. She trusted her. She had no reason to think anything unusual was happening. Amy was, at that point, focused on raising her 4 children, running her own businesses, and being an equal partner in the family farm and the show. But something began to change over the years. Amy has written about this. She noticed that Matt was spending more time with Caryn and less time at home. She noticed that Matt was going to a local tavern in the evenings with more frequency. She noticed that Caryn seemed to be around at times when a regular farm employee might not be around. And eventually, according to Amy's memoir published in 2019, she saw messages and pictures on Matt's phone that she believed crossed the line of what an employer and employee should be sharing. Amy has been specific in her language about this. She has never explicitly accused Matt and Caryn of a physical affair during her marriage. She has said that she saw messages that suggested more than a working relationship. She has said she was devastated. She has said she was scared and ashamed and did not know what to do. She kept the discovery to herself for years. She did not confront Matt directly at the time. She did not tell her children. She did not tell her extended family. She held the information inside, in the way that many women hold difficult truths about their marriages inside, hoping that things might improve, or that she might be misinterpreting what she had seen. That kind of silent suffering, in the face of what a spouse believes to be evidence of betrayal, is one of the most painful experiences a person can have. Amy had it, and she carried it alone for a period of time before eventually confronting Matt and beginning the process of divorce. By 2015, when Matt and Amy officially separated, Amy's relationship with Caryn had become complicated. They were still working together at Roloff Farms. Caryn was still the farm manager. Amy was still the co-owner of the farm. They had to interact professionally. But there was now a layer of personal history between them that changed everything. Amy suspected Caryn of being at least partially responsible for the deterioration of her marriage. Caryn, for her part, denied any wrongdoing during Matt and Amy's marriage. Both women had to work around this fundamental disagreement about the facts. They did what many professional women do when they have personal tension with a coworker. They kept it professional on the surface, and they kept the deeper feelings private. When Matt and Amy's divorce was finalized in May of 2016, the awkward professional coexistence became something more difficult. Because within months, Matt was publicly dating Caryn. What had been a suspicion in Amy's mind was now a confirmed romantic relationship. Caryn was no longer just the farm manager. She was Matt's girlfriend. She was appearing at family events. She was going on trips with Matt. She was becoming, in every way that mattered, part of the Roloff family social ecosystem. Amy had to figure out how to navigate this. She has been open in later interviews about how difficult it was. In a 2024 conversation with Us Weekly, she said, "I never wanted to have anything to do with them, but yet I am still doing a show with them." That statement captures everything. She did not want to have anything to do with Matt and Caryn, but she was contractually obligated to the show. She was still a co-owner of a family business. She had 4 adult children she wanted to remain close to, and those children were figuring out their own relationships with their father and his new girlfriend. Amy could not simply cut Matt and Caryn out of her life. She had to find a way to coexist. The show, from 2017 onward, showed both women navigating this coexistence in real time. There were awkward scenes, family dinners where Amy and Caryn were in the same room, farm events where they had to interact, confessional booths where Amy expressed her genuine feelings about the situation to producers, while Caryn expressed her own. Fans watched Amy struggle. Fans watched Caryn try to build her own identity within the family, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. In one particularly memorable scene, Caryn had to intervene during a business conversation between Matt and Zach about the farm, and Amy was visibly upset about Caryn's involvement in what should have been a family decision. That kind of moment happened repeatedly over the seasons. Caryn stepping into family territory, Amy watching from the sidelines, the tension building, the frustration building, and no easy resolution in sight. Then came the memoir. In 2019, Amy published A Little Me, and in that book, she wrote publicly what she had privately believed for years. She wrote that Matt had, in her view, crossed lines with a farm manager during their marriage. She named her only in general terms in the book, but everyone knew who she was talking about, Caryn Chandler. The book gave Amy, for the first time, the platform to tell her side of the story publicly. She had been through years of silence. She had been through the divorce. She had been through the difficult transition of watching her ex-husband build a new life with the woman she believed had contributed to the ending of her marriage. The book was her way of speaking her truth. It was her way of publicly declaring what she believed had happened. Matt pushed back publicly. He said on the First Class Fatherhood podcast that he was disappointed in the book. He said he did not think Amy was fair in her portrayal. He did not deny the specifics of what she wrote, but he pushed back on the overall framing. Caryn, for her part, did not respond publicly to the book's allegations. She stayed silent. She continued to be Matt's girlfriend, then his fiancée. She continued to work at family events. She continued to move through her life as if the book had not been published. That is a specific kind of restraint. It suggests that Caryn understood the situation. She had chosen to be with Matt. She was going to live with the consequences of that choice, including Amy's public airing of grievances. She was not going to publicly fight Amy about it. In the years after the memoir, something surprising happened. Amy and Caryn slowly, cautiously, began to find a way to coexist that was less painful than what had come before. They did not become friends. That was never going to happen. But they did become, in Amy's own words, cordial. In February of 2024, Amy told Us Weekly, "We are cordial. We are respectful. We can be in each other's company. We can enjoy that time. I would not say we are going to be best friends or anything." Chris Merrick, Amy's husband, added that the dynamic was amicable and had definitely gotten better. What made the improvement possible? A few things. First, time. 6 years had passed since Matt and Caryn had begun dating. 6 years is a long time. Wounds heal, even if they leave scars. Amy had moved on. She had married Chris Merrick in 2021. She had built a happy new life. She no longer needed Caryn to disappear for her own happiness. She had built her happiness elsewhere. Second, the shared context of family. Amy and Caryn were both involved in the lives of Matt's children and grandchildren. Amy had grandchildren who Caryn had known since they were babies. Caryn had connections with those grandkids that could not just be erased. Continuing to have real hostility between Amy and Caryn would have hurt those relationships. Both women, being adults, made the choice to prioritize the family over their personal feelings toward each other. Third, professional necessity. They were still both connected to Roloff Farms. They both had to be at pumpkin season events. They both had to work with Matt on business matters. The functional necessity of working together forced a certain amount of civility. Amy also made specific choices that reflected her cautious approach to the relationship. When Matt and Caryn got engaged in April of 2023, Amy publicly said that she did not plan to attend their eventual wedding. She said in a February 2024 interview, "I think the focus needs to be on them, and I did not want a lot of their friends to think, 'Oh my gosh, Amy and Chris are here.' It is like, just leave this as your moment. We do not need to be included in that." That was Amy at her most gracious. She did not weaponize her absence. She framed it as respectful of Matt and Caryn's moment. She was giving them the space to have their wedding without her presence being a distraction. That kind of grace was hard-won. It came from years of processing her feelings and making peace with a situation she had never chosen. Now, the wedding never happened. As we have discussed in other videos on this channel, 2024 came and went without a wedding date being set. The engagement dragged on into 2025. And then, on July 22nd, 2025, Matt Roloff announced on Instagram that he and Caryn had ended their engagement. The relationship was over. The 8 years were done. Amy did not comment publicly on the breakup. She did not release a statement. She did not weigh in on Instagram. She kept her opinions private. But you can imagine, based on everything we know about her feelings toward Matt and Caryn's relationship over the years, that the news of the engagement ending must have brought a mix of complicated emotions. Some relief, perhaps. Some vindication for those who had believed the engagement was doomed. Some sadness for Caryn, who was, after all, a woman Amy had known for over a decade. Amy has never been publicly cruel about Caryn. Even when she wrote her memoir, her tone was one of grief rather than attack. She did not celebrate the breakup on social media. She let it happen without commentary. What has happened since the July 2025 breakup? Amy and Caryn are no longer connected in any obvious way. Caryn is no longer Matt's fiancée. She is no longer part of the family events that Amy participates in. The forced coexistence that had defined their relationship for years is, at least in its most acute form, over. Amy and Chris continue to attend family gatherings, including the August 2025 sporting event for granddaughter Lila and the December 2025 Christmas reunion. Caryn does not appear at these events. She has, by every visible measure, stepped back from the Roloff family entirely. Whether Amy has spoken to Caryn since the breakup is not publicly known. If they have interacted, it has been private. And that is, in some ways, the most respectful ending this 15-year story could have. Two women, once bound together by their overlapping connection to Matt Roloff, are now free to move forward with their separate lives. What is the legacy of the Amy and Caryn relationship? A few things. First, that being the ex-wife and the new partner is one of the hardest emotional positions any woman can be in. Both Amy and Caryn were in it. Both of them handled it imperfectly over many years. Neither of them was a villain. Neither of them was a saint. They were both women trying to navigate an impossible situation with as much dignity as they could muster. Second, that time can slowly heal even the most difficult relationships. Amy and Caryn started their post-divorce dynamic in a place of significant tension. 15 years later, they had reached a place of cordiality. That progression suggests something hopeful about human resilience. Third, that public relationships in the age of social media are especially difficult. Amy had to think about how every statement she made would be received by millions of viewers. Caryn had to think about how her presence in the family would be perceived. Neither of them could just work through their feelings privately. Every interaction had to be considered for its public dimension. That kind of scrutiny would have been exhausting for anyone. Both women survived it. And fourth, that the ultimate resolution of these kinds of conflicts often comes not from reconciliation between the parties, but from the natural passage of time and the changing of circumstances. Amy and Caryn did not become friends. They did not have a healing conversation. They just, over years, moved through their lives in ways that reduced the tension between them. And now, with Matt and Caryn no longer together, the situation has resolved itself in a way that neither of them planned. There is one more layer to this story that deserves to be highlighted. Caryn's daughter, Brittany, who has had a friendly relationship with the Roloff family over the years, wrote a touching tribute to Matt's late father, Ron, in August of 2022, calling him Papa Roloff and saying he had the best hugs. Brittany's connection to the extended Roloff family was, for years, one of the softening factors in the Amy-Caryn dynamic. Everyone in the family, including Amy, had reason to see Caryn's family as decent people. That decency created space for Amy to be gracious, even when the situation was difficult. Caryn's children were not the enemy. Caryn's mother was not the enemy. Caryn herself was not the enemy, even if Amy believed Caryn had contributed to her marriage ending. The complexity of family life, when there are multiple generations and multiple relationships involved, forces adults to be more careful and more thoughtful than pure hatred would allow. Amy has been that kind of careful and thoughtful adult throughout this saga, and that is one of the reasons she has emerged from the 15-year drama with her dignity intact. For fans of Little People Big World who have watched this dynamic for years, the Amy and Caryn relationship has been one of the most quietly compelling storylines of the entire show. It was never the loudest storyline, it was never the most dramatic, but it was, in its slow, painful, decades-long evolution, one of the most human. Two women navigating an impossible situation with the tools they had available to them, both making choices, some good and some questionable, both changing over time. Both, in the end, reaching a form of peace that neither of them could have predicted at the beginning. That is the shape of most difficult adult relationships. Not clean, not resolved with a hug, just slowly worked out over years by two people doing the best they could. So I want to know what you think. Do you think Amy and Caryn can ever truly be friends now that the engagement is over? Or is that history impossible to move past? Do you think Amy handled the situation over the years with the grace and dignity she deserves credit for? Or do you think she should have been more forceful about her feelings? And do you think Caryn will ever publicly share her side of the 15-year story? Or do you think she will remain silent as she has been? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and I love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to LPBW Update, and ring the bell so you do not miss our weekly Roloff family stories. We are committed to bringing you the truth, the timeline, and the heart of every member of this remarkable family. I will see you on the next one.